This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back, folks. So yes, keeping that serious vein of wearing your girdle to the bank robbery. Now we have the legislative wards. Like we didn't have war enough in the legislature already. But this is why we study history, Frank, because it reminds us, people will say so many times, oh, it can't get any worse. Oh, no, it can always get worse. I don't care what is happening. It can get worse.
Well, and the story is going to be about, back around the turn of the century. I mean, you talk about politics being passionate. And,
wow.
I mean, this was the legislative war, and it was a war.
It was a war. It was an armed conflict.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think the House chamber, I don't know if the doors are still there, but they were for a long time, and I don't know if they've been moved now in the renovation to the Historical Society, but it was the actual doors that got battered down by the Populists breaking into the chamber to take over from the Republicans at the time.
And, there is a photograph, the famous photograph of that is on display now in the basement, the visitor center of the Capitol. They do have that photograph of the guy standing there
with the sledgehammer
and the hole in the door, So there is. This is not fake news. There is real evidence.
This is real news.
This is real news.
Happened when people were really passionate about their politics in the state of Kansas.
And not taking Prozac.
Yeah.
May you be blessed to live during interesting times, goes the old Chinese curse. This could very well be the story of Kansas politics. With our beginnings in troubled times through to the present, Kansas politics has been filled with interesting moments, and perhaps none more so than the Legislative War of 1893. Populist Governor Lorenzo D. Lewelling was elected in 1892, but both the Republicans and Populists claimed a majority in the legislature. The parties elected their own officers and conducted separate sessions in the same hall. Although each party made attempts to unseat the other, they proved fruitless. Finally, in mid-February 1893, the Populists took sole possession of Representative Hall, locking themselves in and Republicans out. The breaking point came in mid-February with the arrest of Ben Rich, clerk of the Populist House, with the charge of disturbing the peace of the legislature. After his rescue, both sides began to muster their forces. Republicans marched to the statehouse and took a sledgehammer to the door of the House of Representatives. Governor Lewelling called up several militia companies. Late on February 15th, the governor sent for Battery A of Wichita and instructed the men to bring their Gatling gun. The militia arrived, but since it was composed almost entirely of Republicans, and most of the units, they refused to obey the governor. The crisis continued for 3 days until a populist surrender was effected. The Republican House stayed in the hall. Proceedings against the clerk were dropped. People's Party representatives agreed to conduct their business in a separate statehouse room. The final decision was left to the Supreme Court on Saturday, February 25th, by a partisan vote of 2-1. The court found in favor of the Republicans. On Monday, the Populists went to Representative Hall to assume their position as minority party. By this time, only a few days remained in the session. Although little constructive work was accomplished, but there was no bloodshed, perhaps their greatest accomplishment. Tarwater Farm and Home has been family-owned and operated since its beginning in 1978. What you need for farm and agriculture, lawn and garden, clothing and footwear, and so much more. You'll be surprised at what you'll find in this huge store. They have what you need and lots of it. So come take a look. You'll discover that customer service is first and foremost. Always has been with the Tarwaters. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.